Welcome to The Pursuit, the podcast that discusses all things dating, relationships, and personal development from a faith perspective. Today's topic can be a little touchy, especially for those of us who have been single for quite some time. It seems that the more time passes, the harder and harder it gets. And I don't just mean harder to find someone, but harder to do life alone. But even in such dark imaginings, we as believers have a glimmering hope that others who don't know Jesus like we do just don't, and that gives us a special advantage. Today's episode is entitled The Solo Struggle, where we'll explore some of the challenges that come with being single, as well as how to mitigate and learn from them, all in an effort of becoming better people and better witnesses. We appreciate you spending this time with us, and I hope you have a great time. Enjoy.
Hello, my name is Josue Peralta, and today I am joined by my sister Smyrna, my buddy Mike, and a guest. How are you?
Hi.
Good. How are you guys?
Abby, who is our guest this week?
Today we have a very special guest, my very close friend, Christians Garcia. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing good.
What's one thing that you guys can tell me, as you kind of tell me a little bit about your week, that you're proud of that you did? I'll start. So I was able to make some progress on my novel, which was good this week. And then I also preached a really good sermon that I got some really nice feedback on this past Sabbath at church. I was really proud of it. I preached on Lazarus. You can actually find the sermon on my sermon podcast. It's called Oatmeal at Dawn. What about you guys? Is there anything that you did that you're proud of this week?
I also preached this past Sabbath.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you wear your suit?
No, I just wore something. It's too hot to wear a suit, man. No.
What was your sermon on?
I preached about lions.
Wow.
I've been kind of going on this. So the last time I preached before that, I preached about trees. So I just kind of been like going on this.
Next time it's about water?
Perhaps. I mean, but like the main, the main thing from those sermons and kind of this like theme I kind of been going on is about just, seeing God in nature and his creation and like how we can learn from that and, what it can teach us about God. And so it's just been really interesting and a good thing to study and preach about. So
I like it. How about you, Doc?
Well, like you, I was also there on Sabbath, and I guess something I'm proud about is the fact that I was able to just practice being a stage manager. Kind of like,
You've been wanting to do that for a while now.
Yeah, I've developed my organizational skills over the years, especially when I got into education in the academic realm. So I got to put that into action, and everything went really well. And then on top of that, I've been able to just enjoy the summer more this week, intentionally hitting up the pool and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So I'm proud of that.
Nice. How about you, Chris Mady?
It will be, I felt really nice helping one of my patients this week. Like I'm a nurse, registered nurse, and I work in the OR. So one of my patients was like really nervous and stuff, and I feel like so proud that kind of helping out, just like go through that process, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice, yeah. It's really good. Today's episode, The Solo Struggle, is a sequel to last week's episode, The Solo Advantage, where we went through some of the benefits that come with being single. Among those were that we have more time for ministry, more time to spend in this to develop the spiritual life, more time to work on mental health, more time to get to know yourself and other people. We also talked about having more flexibility and freedom, as well as kind of having the room to make mistakes without having to impact somebody else as well.
Yeah.
If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would invite you to do so after this one to see kind of how to maximize that single time and how to enjoy your single time. We have tons of topics in the pipeline, like, specifically my sister and I were talking about earlier this week, women earning more than men, dating outside of the church, physicality in Christian dating, like how many bases is safe bases, etc. How Adventist dating apps and websites kind of suck. Dating, single divorcees or parents, and homosexuality, sex, and many more topics to come. But, we're using these few beginning episodes to set the scene on how a relationship is made up of individuals, and thus it is super important and behooves us to spend time maximizing our single time to become better individuals, to then become better partners when it comes to being in a relationship.
That's right.
Today, though, we'd like to explore the other side of the coin of of last week's The Solo Advantage, and today being the solo struggle, and how to deal with some of these downfalls and the challenges, as well as kind of how to mitigate them.
Yeah, but before we go into the topic of today, like you guys have heard her voice already, my good friend Christiane is here today with us.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited she's on the podcast. So I actually sprung the podcast on her. I'm like, you're coming to my house and we're recording today, so you have to be on it. So
Yes, basically.
and she agreed, and we love her for it. So
We're glad she's here.
Christiane, tell me a little bit about you. Like, we know you're a nurse, but something happened recently.
So I got married like
That's right.
8 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my husband now, we're dating about like almost 3 years before we got married.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you still got it fresh about what it's like to be single,
Yes.
but now you have the married perspective of like, now that I'm married, I don't have to go through that no more. So
Through none of this.
so I figured she'd be an awesome guest for our podcast.
No, we're definitely glad to have you here. And
I'm happy to be here.
And just interested to hear your perspective from having been through being single, and then what it looks like from the other side looking backwards.
Yes, give us hope.
There's still hope.
So, having said that, let's get right into it, okay? So, one of the first disadvantages of being single is the pressures that we receive in society. Whether that be you have to be married by a certain age, or if you're not dating, what's wrong with you? Or if you're trying to get a job, some jobs require you to get married.
Which ones?
Like, for example, we were just talking earlier about pastors. The odds of a single pastor getting a job are a little bit lower than a pastor who's married, regardless if it's a happy marriage or not,
Yeah.
So for some jobs, you have to be married. And then on top of that, for us as women, we have this pressure of our biological clock where, like, have kids by a certain age or else it gets harder. Obviously, with the new advances in medicine, that pressure of biological clock is going down, but it's still something that we receive from, whether it be our parents or friends, the old crew, those that came before us that don't believe in medicine as much. And then also the biggest one that I talk to Josh all the time about is about, for example, for women, is that there's this notion that women lose value with age. And I am so strongly against that because women get better with age. Maybe you don't look like an 18-year-old, no wrinkles or nothing, but you mature, you get experience. And there's this notion that in society, well, you're going to be 26 now, you're going to be 27, finding a man's going to be harder because they're just going to want a younger person. So you not only hear that from your family, but you get that from society. You guys get what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I see that, And I think, like, that was a good point you brought up about the biological clock. Like, I mean, that is a real thing, but, like, it's also, I think, tied to, just more people in general, like, today, more women in general, they're more career oriented. There's not, like the family, the prototypical family that you see on like a 1950s show or anymore. Like that
Exactly.
stuff really doesn't exist
It
anymore.
doesn't
So it's
exist
kind of
anymore.
like, it's kind of like tied to, our society as a whole, like just how everything is set up now, like, I mean, and those things are good. Like women, they should, take every opportunity to go for their careers. But, at the same time, like, obviously they're not going to have time to right away, get married. I mean, like the statistics show like less people are, getting married or settling down these days. And so
And
it kind of leads to, that.
with culture, it also the pressure is different, right? Because like in the
Yeah.
Latino culture,
Oh, it's like, yeah,
if
but
you don't get married young, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
yeah,
Whereas
some,
here in America, it's like more.
It's more of the norm.
It's more of a norm
Yeah.
to get married later on.
Yeah.
So it's like navigating that for me personally. It's like I'm Hispanic. It's like I got this thing of, oh, you should get married young. But at the same time, it's like I pretty much grew up in the States where it's like I have the option of getting married older, and that's okay. But it's like dealing with those two voices for me. Do you have any personal example for you of like societal pressure? I mean, if you don't, that's fine. But I just want to ask.
I don't think so. I have one right now.
Okay, that's fine. For me, an example is of just I wanted to get married by 25. So, like like I said earlier, you want to get married early, young, and obviously I'm 26 now, so I clearly did not get married. So just dealing with that, and then sometimes people at church will be like, "Well, you got to get on it. The clock is ticking."
How
Not
has that
just-
made you feel? Like, knowing that you kind of missed your own deadline.
my own deadline, I felt like I did something wrong at a certain point, but then I was like, hold up. Like, I still got time. And it's my pace. So, like, at first, I kind of wanted to cave in to that feeling of, like, feeling like I failed. But then it's like I got to pick myself up again and realize, I'm 26 and that's cool. Like, I'm wiser. Like, I would make less mistakes now than if I got married in 25. So
Exactly.
that's an upside. So I was just looking up a Bible verse about like society pressures that I think we as Christians need to keep in mind. It's like in Galatians 1:10, and it says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." So even though we have these society pressures, like at the end of the day, we're trying to please Christ, and we got to put those pressures aside. How about you guys?
Though
Josh?
they are very real, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're real.
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, I don't feel like I've had a lot of societal pressure. I mean, kind of going off of what you were saying, that, the thought that women lose value as they age, it's kind of the inverse for men.
Yeah.
And I think we want to devote a whole topic, like a whole episode to
That
it.
is true.
We need to
At a later
because
time.
I have some very strong thoughts on this.
We know.
Well, that's interesting because like growing up, like it was always the older guys that the girls wanted.
I mean,
Well,
it's
'cause-
always been that.
It's always been that way.
That's
So that's
never
Marry
interesting.
an older guy, right?
Yeah, and
Well, I think that's just kind of how it.
There's no
There's
surprise
just no
there.
surprise.
Nobody is surprised.
Yeah,
You said you married an older gentleman?
well, not like that old.
Yeah.
Like, but it's older than me. Yeah, like
I think it's a lot. I was always told that was the reason because like girls mature faster than guys.
yeah, that's true.
It's true.
That is true.
Yeah,
And I think
I would
women
agree.
just want like a man who's more mature than them, so that they don't have to feel like they're carrying the brunt of life or maturity.
Or, I mean, in my case,
Oh,
if
like
he's a
match
couple
maturity.
years older, he will probably be the same mature level. Because
Yeah.
since men mature slower, we'll probably meet there.
Yeah, but you're assuming that at one point they don't meet, or that men just are all like I agree that men mature slower in the adolescence, but once we become adults, all bets are off.
I disagree. I disagree to this day, but let's that's another episode,
So,
like you said.
Yeah,
Let's keep going with
because, yeah. But so going back to kind of my story, I don't feel like I've personally faced any societal pressures of being alone, because, I mean, the older I get, the more kind of so the older I get, and the more I'm all about my passions and about my mission and my purpose and things like that, I tend to gain value in the marketplace, for lack of a better term. So I don't necessarily, again, Abby's over here, there's smoke coming out of her ears, though you can't
Almost,
really see
yeah.
that right now. But even then, I see friends around me, and a lot of my friends, most of my friends are married. And even then, some of them, a lot of them are even having kids now. So it's not
Are
just...
they Adventist or not Adventist?
Both.
Both. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so especially like on the Adventist front, like I feel like I'm 2 steps behind sometimes, because it's like, oh, okay, getting married, and even when I do get married, I feel like I would want to spend time with my wife without having kids.
Yeah.
So if you factor that into the number of, like, let's say 3-4 years, okay, so let's just say the 3 years of just no kids or what have you. Now, even if I got married tomorrow, I wouldn't even be having kids until, for another 3 years, which by that point, my friends would be on their second or presumably third child, if that makes sense. So not only are they married, but they're also having kids. So I guess in that way, I feel like I'm losing a little bit of relatability with them.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that I'm not married. I don't know what that's like.
For
And
that.
and I mean, that does definitely play into kind of my psyche and decision making. How about you, bro?
So, like, for me, like, and it's almost of an extension of kind of what Esmeralda was saying. Obviously there's the pressure that comes with, trying to, date and, get in a relationship and stuff like that. Cause, it's just in America, like, everybody's, even like if it's not a serious relationship, like people casually date. They have
Yeah.
people that they just go out with, like even though they're not like official, they're not like Facebook official or anything, but they're still like, going out and they're seen around. Like
Situationships, baby.
Yeah, I see that all the time, and it's just like, man, but
Wait, does that
we
bug
kind of
you?
already talked, huh?
Does that bug you? Or
I mean,
or
like,
how does it make you feel?
well, it makes me feel like it makes me feel like something like it used to make me feel like I was missing out on an experience that like most people had. Huh? I don't know what is that?
Fear of missing out.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and but after like, kind of talking about it and maturing and, seeing like where all that kind of stuff leads to, it's just like, okay, I don't really need that, but for me, it's more on a deeper level. Like, obviously there's a dating, but then what happens with the dating? Like, where will that take you to get into a relationship? And so for me, it's like, it's not just the pressure to date, but it's the pressure to become someone you're not. Because like,
Walk me through that.
well, because society like has, especially in like America, but even all over, there's like an ideal person that you're supposed to be when it comes to, well, just look at television, social media, when it comes to like what attraction looks like, what will get you the girl, flashy clothes, being super loud, I don't know, having a nice car,
yeah.
a certain way you talk, certain places you go, like maybe partying or going to the bar or whatever, and a lot of people, do those things. I don't really, but I feel like there's a lot of societal pressure to, do those things. And for me, like on a personal level, I'm thrifty, I'm frugal. I don't really wear a lot of flashy stuff, like, yeah, I mean, like, that's fine. But I feel like a lot of people, will look at that as something that's not really going to get you a relationship as
that's
good.
True. I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, I mean, because this is in my
it does
personal
play a
experience.
role,
It
but-
does play a role, and there's levels to it. I'm not saying, it's okay if you look like a homeless person. I don't want to say that.
I mean, you have to be hot enough to look good as a homeless person. Just saying. That's a thing. Sorry, go
sure,
ahead.
yeah, but like I said, there's levels to it. But I feel like a lot of people are afraid to be who they truly are because society wants them to be, or we're influenced by a culture that wants us to be something else. And then when you look at it from an Adventist perspective, me and you, when I was going through that time where I, got hurt by a girl and whatever, we went to a jazz club, right? And it was like a bar, and that's like for me as I like jazz.
As worldly as
that's as worldly as it goes for me. But it was a
we
bar.
went to hear the music.
Yeah, it was a bar. We were there to hear the music. There was people drinking. I'm sure I met some cool guys there. They play. There were some really good guitarists there. I got to meet. They played really good music. I got to talk to them. I play guitar, so that was a cool experience for me. But I brought you there. But one of the reasons why I went there was because I was like, man, maybe I just need to go out and see people. This is where a lot of people are meeting. One of my good friends from Australia, he's Adventist. He's actually here. Not in Wisconsin, but he's in America. He's stateside. He's canvassing right now. Nice. He told me, we had talked about it because I went to Australia last year. We had talked about it, and he told me, it was like, dude, it's really easy to like get girls like at the bar. Yeah. So like I'm hearing about that because I went to public college, and especially in Wisconsin, we're like the drunkest state like by far in the country. So like that's a big thing, and so there's like a pressure to want to go and do that because a lot of my friends outside of the church, I would say I could say I have more friends outside of the church
than inside the church.
Inside the church, and a lot of them are like all of them are pretty much doing that. So it's just like I'm like the odd one out. So and then they're hooking up with girls, they're meeting girls, they're going on dates, and I'm just here. Yeah. That was the first time I actually ever went to that, and it was spurred because I was hurt after trying to go after a girl. We'll just call her Rachel, whatever. And it didn't work. And so that made me want to do that.
Okay.
And so I feel like we have to be careful, especially as Christians, about that, not letting society influence us to behave in a way because we want to get that, relationship. Because, we just look at the relationship, but what does that look like for you? Yeah. Are you going to go away from God? And that verse was perfect. I wish I had said that. But you said it first, but where's that? Galatians.
It's Galatians 1:10, I believe. Here, let me.
1:10. Like, who does who do we want to impress? Yeah, who are we really trying to be like? Are we trying to be like the world? Do we want that girl? Do we want that guy? Are we going to become that bad boy, that bad girl thing that we're seeing? Who came out with the bad girl moniker? Was that Rihanna or was that?
Who knows?
It was like there was a song that came out or something where, and now everybody's like bad girl this, bad girl that.
Don't you mean bad B?
That too. We're not gonna cuss, but I feel like a lot of people are, doing that because they want that relationship. And so they just change who they are. Even when they're like, I know people who were raised in devout Christian households, not even Adventists, and they, because they wanted that guy or they got hurt originally, they went off into the deep end. They went off away from what their beliefs were and stuff. So
I feel also that you can get that social pressure through social media.
Oh, definitely.
Like you can see a lot of couples posting pictures like, we're so in love. Look, my boyfriend just gave me like flowers, whatever. And you're like over here single, like, man, I wish I can have that. And you kind of have that pressure on you. Like, like I wish that was me, or I wish I had something like that with another person. And sometimes you can get that pressure through the social media. Like, and it's funny because like some people, like some couple post all of this cute stuff and all of this.
Well, they're going
stuff
picking apples. I always see that.
It's a great activity.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just joking.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just not even real, and then
a lot of it
but
isn't.
then you still get that pressure like to you.
Internalize that.
Like yesterday was National Girlfriend Day.
Oh yeah,
and that was
that hard for you, Mike?
I was off social media a little bit because of that. I was like, oh, this is so nice. And, I'm being supportive. I'm like, but inside I'm just like,
we need a national single day, a singles day. Is that a thing?
Let's not.
No, because
make it the day after National Girlfriend Day.
I mean, it'd be nice though to get a discount for being single at like Starbucks or something. Like,
I don't even go to Starbucks.
Like, there
That
should
wouldn't
be a
work for
day,
me.
because especially last episode we talked about the advantages, so we should celebrate it.
That would be
once in a
nice.
while.
Isn't every other day not Valentine's Day, Singles Day?
No.
Why are we at it?
No, we need like an official day, okay?
Where we
That's
make a
all.
status. Yeah, I'm single.
Yeah.
Make a picture while you're alone in your basement with yourself. Yeah,
maybe,
no, I'm
not
just
gonna
maybe
joking.
not pitiful, but like you have to celebrate.
I'm just messing around. I'm just joking again.
Piggybacking off of that, I feel like the biggest issue with and the struggle that comes with being alone is what? Let's all say it at the same time. It's being
Lonely.
It absolutely sucks being lonely. I know it firsthand. You know it firsthand. Everybody knows what it's like being single firsthand. And the interesting part about being or feeling lonely is that not only does it change you and kind of who you are internally, but it also affects how you relate to other people and how other people relate to you. So in essence, not only are you struggling on the inside, but now the external is being affected by your internals, even to a greater degree than we were even or that we would give credit to. So, for example, some of the side effects that like being lonely bring about is people can develop depression
Oh yeah.
of being lonely. I think we underestimate just how much we really need people in our lives, and I don't just mean for the extroverts out there like me. I mean specifically for introverts too. We just need people in order to function better.
Well, that's how God created us.
Exactly.
God himself is a relational being. Like there's three gods. It's not just one God sitting up there in heaven by himself. Like he has a family and he has billions of angels.
And I love how the two institutions that made it out of Eden were the institution of marriage, which is relational, and the institution of the Sabbath, which is
relational.
also relational, except with Jesus. So it just goes to show that when we don't have that, it can really, it can turn clinical, right? Because depression isn't just you're feeling down. It can really develop into something that can need, professional help.
And just to give some more real world example. So I know you say you work as a nurse. I work in the ambulance company up where I live. And we get a lot of mental health calls, and we
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
a lot of
they
them
go
we're
up.
transferring them to a facility, and so a lot of these times that people get chaptered, which means they have to go,
They have to go, yeah.
or people
I love that term. You're chaptered. That's it.
yeah, and a lot of times, before we get the call, we see the call on our phone, and then we'll read it, and it'll just say suicidal ideation, and this don't take this the wrong way, but almost 9 out of 10 times, I would say 9 out of 10 times when we get the call and it's suicidal ideation and it's a girl involved, like a teenage girl, because they'll tell us, the dispatch will tell us. 9 out of 10 times when we get to the hospital and the nurse explains to us what the issue is, it's always boyfriend relationship related.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's sad. And a lot of these are teenage girls.
Yeah.
They'll be like, my boyfriend cheated on me. My boyfriend
I
left
read
me.
a stat somewhere that after social media, the suicide rate of specifically young
Increased.
women, spiked.
Oh, yeah.
Out of nowhere, maybe 2 or 3 times the regular amount.
I'm not
and
surprised.
it's not going down anytime soon.
No, there's a direct
I mean,
relation to
it also did
social
went
media
up
and
to
depression.
with young men, but nowhere near as that it went up with young women, which is really sad. Another point
Stay off of social media.
Another way that being single kind of negatively impacts the personal life is the fact that research has shown, and these points I took them off of different research that was collectivized. Some were done by the University of Pennsylvania, and I forget where the others were from. But the point is that they were talking about how the more time you spend alone, the less intuitive or aware you become about others' emotions. Because you don't get that feedback of what angry looks like. You don't get that feedback of what happy looks like or confused. And the interesting and intriguing part about it is that us humans, there isn't just one face for anger. There isn't just one face for confusion and happiness and elation. It's a mixture of all of that. And the less time we spend with people, the
Just
less
miss
we
those
miss
social
out.
cues. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We miss out on the nuances of facial expressions, on tone and on voice intonations and
Yeah.
things like that. So now not only could you become depressed, but now you're losing touch with other people on a legitimate level,
Yeah.
not just an emotional level too.
Yeah, if you ever like read up on and these are kind of like really messed up stories, but like if you ever read up on these, like there's like people who were really abused as kids and they were like pretty much locked in their rooms or in a closet for years. And then when they get rescued, like a lot of like their social cues or a lot of their communication skills are like non-existent.
And that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they had like no interaction with anyone, and that goes to like another thing. And this, like, for anybody who's raised as a homeschooler, a lot of times, and I've seen homeschoolers who are very extroverted and everything like that, but a lot of times,
But they're playing from behind, I feel.
well, a lot of times homeschoolers, especially if they're single kids or like single child, they are a lot of them introvert.
They're just awkward, socially awkward.
Sometimes, extroverted. Unless they come from a big family, then they kind of have, that. But yeah, so just kind of wanted to put that in there.
No, it's true. Kind of in that same vein, it talks about how they are, interestingly enough, it says that they're less cooperative because you become just so used to being and doing the things that you're doing that when somebody comes along and says, hey, we're not eating Tostito pizza rolls every single night, we're eating something healthy, they're like, no, because I feel like that you become attached to some of those routines on an emotional level and that you become reliant on those to kind of feel better because that's what you've been relying on to fill that loneliness void. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And likewise, the research talks about how they become more assertive. In other words, not only are you less cooperative, but you're also more defensive about the things that you do and how you do them, which is really interesting there too. It also talks about how being lonely produces reduced stability in self-worth, because you come to the conclusion that, hey, if I'm lonely and I'm not meeting anybody, something's got to be wrong with me. I'm the problem here.
Yeah.
And you can come to internalize that.
But I think we also need to make an important distinction between lonely and just being like alone.
I was gonna say that.
And
Yeah.
enjoying the company. And I think the distinction comes into like the feeling of where it's coming from, a place of insecurity or a place of confidence, because we do need to learn how to spend time alone. We're apart from God, we're spending the most of our time with ourselves. And just because we're spending our time with ourselves doesn't mean we're lonely.
Right.
So I just thought it was important to say that out there, that it's
Yeah.
just
I feel like sometimes people can feel lonely in a room with a lot of
lot of
people.
people.
So people, like, what you said, you have to take the difference what is lonely and what is feel alone.
yeah.
And it's hard because, like, for example, for me, I think that we were talking about that earlier. Like, I was living by myself for like a year. I had my boyfriend at the time. We were dating. But then once I get home, I was by myself, and then I felt lonely because I didn't have anyone to go into my house. But then when I got married, it's just like so different. I'm happier when I go home because I know he's gonna be there to meet me and all that.
Yeah.
But and it's hard when you go through that process to be lonely and just find someone to give you that support and help you with that is.
No, that's true. Another one that I found really interesting was that people who feel like really lonely tend to neglect their health. So,
Yes.
And you can see that in overeating, in not exercising, not taking care of yourself, and hygiene, et
Not
cetera,
going
et
to the
cetera.
doctor.
Yep.
Not going to the doctor. I don't know, Abby. That's just a man thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a man
It
thing.
is. What? Yeah. Why do they
Why
do
do you
that?
guys not go to the doctor?
There's no need.
There is need.
It's gonna
yes.
get better. Relax.
No.
No. No wonder that women end up
living more longer.
living longer, and the men die faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've heard that all before. Thank you for
Yeah,
the
but
input.
yeah. Mhm.
Just make him an appointment and then just make him go.
Yeah, see,
to-
okay, so
See,
then...
but then we have to do it, and then we get into mommy mode. You
Okay,
know?
time out.
That's
Time
why
out.
it's
What's wrong
something-
with being a partner here? If
Okay.
if I'm struggling in an area and I ask for help, now you're like, oh, I'm turning into mommy mode.
No, it's
Come
But you
on,
said it. You
B.
said it. If I ask for help, that's a difference, right? A partner is there to help you and be.
That's what
and
Chris
help-
Mady was talking
I-
about. She's like,
since
yeah,
I
she's
got
like,
married,
well, can
I
you help
still
me
need-
make an appointment?
Yeah, I have to
But
start
it-
making an
but-
appointment for my husband.
But
which
most men
I
don't
don't
ask
see
for
anything
help.
wrong with
That's what
that.
I'm saying.
Okay, but
When
here's the
they-
thing. If I
and
don't
then you
need
have
help-
to make them. That's what I was talking about. When you have to make your husband, that's mommy mode. When your mom used to make you do stuff.
But it's like I feel like you can help your partner because like if you know he's not good about doing that and then he struggled with that or maybe he doesn't have time to call the doctor, like I don't say bad to help him, and maybe for the first couple times you can do that and then just next time like hear the number, you call the doctor next time.
Yeah, like you can help, but like you said, like he's gonna eventually start
Yeah.
doing it, right? Like I don't know, but we got off there.
About that anymore. But going back to kind of the point there, the biggest one here is that science has shown, I don't know if you guys knew this, that chronic loneliness has the same risk level of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Not only can loneliness affect you, but it also affects others. So we were talking about how being less intuitive about emotions, when it comes to relating with other people, even with friends or with future partners, it can lead to a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of miscommunications there,
That's true.
which can, spiral. I'm not saying it will, but it can do that. When we were talking about how people are less cooperative, if you realize relationships are the exact opposite of that. When you're lonely or when you do life alone, you get accustomed to doing things your way because that's just the way you do them and no one can tell you to do no. But then when you are in a relationship, marriage, as you know, Chris Mady, is all about compromise.
Oh, yeah.
And, saying, okay, this is how I do things. This is how you do things. And here's how we're going to do things. What would you say is an example of that?
And that's good point that you put that out there because it's hard sometimes when like I do this way and no one's gonna make me come and change me, whatever. So is that when you have to let your ego go and like be vulnerable with your partner and say like, okay, let's try your way, let's see which way is better to, because at the end of the day you guys gonna be partner, you're gonna be in the same team, so it's not like you're in the corner, I'm in this corner. So it's like you guys have to find a way to work together as a team, as a partner.
Agreed.
I remember Michelle Obama, and she made she was interviewed about her relationship with Barack Obama, and she said like there were days throughout their marriage that he was like 60%,
We were
And,
talking about that.
Yeah.
like
Today.
she was 40,
Yeah.
and some days it flip flopped.
Yep.
But she said over time it should average out to 50%.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
And I love the Obamas.
Not to talk bad about Michael's favorite Obamas here, but
Be careful now.
the youth director we were talking about last week, he said something that I guess just kind of stuck with me, and he mentioned that people talk about 50-50, but in reality it's got to be
It's
100
not.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in like you got to put whatever your 100 is.
Yes.
If your 100 is 30% of whatever it is, you got to give all 30.
All 30.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's
You can't half-ass it.
that's what equity is,
Yeah.
where the person is strong, the other person can.
Yeah, so it's funny because we were just talking about that earlier. Because sometimes, okay, you try to do your best, you try to give 100%, but then sometimes it's like you work so much during the day that you just have
Just tired.
10% and you're just tired, you don't want to do anything.
Can't do anything.
And then your partner have to understand that day he have to give 120%, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh, like I was.
And that's a sacrifice.
Yeah, and that's what like being with a partner, being married is. It's just like try to work together and like make a sacrifice for your partner. Yeah.
No, I feel you. And just to kind of wrap up here, the point on loneliness here, and how not only does it affect you, but how it affects other people. When you neglect your health, you know, you can lose your appeal, you can lose your energy, and at that point, you know, you can say you want a relationship, but now you don't even have the energy to find someone. You don't even have the energy to even pursue your friendships. You know what I'm saying? So it can kind of escalate and kind of go from there. We also talked about how being lonely can kind of make you reluctant. Even if somebody does come along and it is that right one, if you're not ready, it's going to affect them because now that person who connected with you, who spent time with you as a friend, but perhaps wanted something more, can't get all of you because, you know, you weren't able to give even that 30% that was yours, if that makes sense. So overall, being lonely is the absolute worst, like chronic loneliness, as we obviously have heard. And not only does it affect you, and it affects other people. And I'll give like a personal example. When my business first started taking off in 2020, that I wanted to take a trip across the Western United States, I wanted to leave for 2 months, but I didn't want to experience the oohs and the ahs all by myself. I just felt that was a crime to see the best that this country has to offer and nobody there to spend it with. So I legitimately paid somebody money to come travel with me, a salary, and I paid all the expenses just so that I wouldn't be alone. That's how crazy it was for me. Wow. And like I mentioned, that travel companion turned out to not be the best travel companion, though he's still a good guy. I had to come back and kind of just drop him off. Even then, like once I realized that he was robbing me of my solitude, but providing no companionship, I ended up leaving again and did spend 6 weeks out there by myself. And during those 6 weeks, I had my days where I didn't want to do anything. I don't care if I was in the middle of Arizona, you know, in Page, Arizona, where Horseshoe Bend is, absolutely stunning. I just didn't want to do anything because I was just so overcome with loneliness that, again, it doesn't matter if I was traveling, if I had money. It was just like it stung me way too hard. And now I've gotten kind of accustomed to being alone and traveling alone. So ever since then, I don't mind traveling alone anymore. It's become my norm. But even then, I don't prefer it if I don't have to. That's why sometimes I'm like, hey, Mike, you want to go to California or to Arizona for GYC? And he's like, okay, let's do it. When do we leave? And then I'm like, well, you know, it's not just GYC. How about we hit up, you know, California and then hit up some nice states on the way back too? And he's like, okay. And it's been nice, you know, to be able to travel with him some of those times. But
and I would just say before we move on, just in my experience, I feel like being lonely, especially for me, and I kind of mentioned it already, it can lead you to act in a way that isn't
conducive to who you really are.
Conducive to who you are, but also rationally. Like you just start like when you're lonely, and that drive and desire for companionship can be very strong. Yeah. And well, I was like, it will be strong. It's natural. Strong, yeah. But if it goes unchecked.
But you have to be careful because sometimes, sorry if I interrupt you, but sometimes you can end up like in la tentación, temptation. So sometimes when you feel lonely, I feel like you can end up doing stuff that you're not supposed to, or think about stuff that you're not supposed to. So sometimes you, like, as a person, have to be careful, like, feeling that way, or just trying to find someone to just talk about it. I feel like just when you talk about it, feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
and I mean, I'll just kind of interject here and kind of go back to the story I told last week of, let's call her Rachel again, the girl over there. I was feeling mega lonely. But once she came in the picture, and once we had that chemistry, and once we had that physical chemistry, the desires started, you know, really kind of undamming, if that makes sense.
And Satan knows that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I knew that.
I know, and you still go through it. And that's what we kind of talk about. Satan knows that relationships are like the biggest thing, one of the biggest things. Well, I don't know. You could say the biggest thing, argue it, that gets us away from God, because he can make you lonely, and then boom, he brings out this girl. She's real nice. She looks good. Everything's great.
Yeah.
But she's not for you. And I just wanted to bring an example because John the Baptist, where did he live? He lived in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And that was for a reason. I'm not saying we have to live in the wilderness, but whatever the wilderness needs to be for your life, whether it be social media or television or maybe certain people you hang out with that are going to influence you to do or go down that path. I think maybe it's time to, like, for me, even in my life, to do that. Like, maybe I need to put myself in a wilderness where I'm not influenced to do those things, or, you know, have that peer pressure, or, you know, have all that temptation when I feel lonely to go and, you know, do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me personally, I've been dealing with loneliness, you know, because I'm human, right? But from a young age, I'm the only girl. So
In the family.
In
she
the
means
family,
the only
yes.
daughter, yeah.
So, like, yeah, sure, I would do things with my siblings, right? We would hang out, but at the end of the day, it was just me. Like, there wasn't another girl to relate with me. Like, sure, there was my mom, but it's just different.
This is not the same.
So,
It's not the same.
so I've dealt with loneliness just from a perspective of just being the only girl, but also going off of what you guys were saying, sometimes, like, it's led me to seek things that, you know, weren't good for me. Like, for example, when I was really lonely and I was looking at it from a lack of, like, self-esteem or from a disadvantage,
Oh, wow.
I would want to, like, go deeper into books and, like, whether it be mystery or, you know, there's a whole bunch
So
of
you just
genres
lose
out there.
yourself in there.
Yeah, books and movies, and, like, I would put myself in these worlds and then be like, okay, I can analyze it and all like that. I'm not that alone anymore, or, like, I can relate to these characters. So it just led me to some unfavorable decisions with content I have consumed. And now, I was just talking to you earlier, I work remote, and I am ready to go back into the office. Like, I want employee
company.
drama.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
want
Lord.
to be able to, you know, talk at the water
Drama.
fountain.
About people.
How was your weekend? Did you did anything fun this weekend? Yeah.
Or, like, just be able to meet up after work for drinks. Like, I want that again. Because, like, how you were talking about, you can just get complacent, or, like, you know, those social cues, or like
You start
at
to lose
work,
them.
you know, those microaggressions, you know? You
Oh,
know?
don't tell me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so
Gosh, I hate that.
it's been a journey for me dealing through loneliness
microaggressions.
where yeah, sure, sometimes I feel lonely from a negative perspective, but then I'm also learning to enjoy my time alone.
Yeah.
To just, you know, yes, I'm alone, but I can have fun on my own.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. So it's just
That's
been
true.
a journey for me through that, and just relying on God, because, like, He's always there. Like,
That's
I'm
true.
not alone. Like, we're not alone here. Like,
And I
so-
think
That's true.
I think that's what makes, because I've always said this. I think the most mentally strong people, in my experience, and from what I've read from history and everything, are always people who rely on God, because you don't need to, like,
For obvious reasons.
for obvious reasons. Like, if you know there's a higher power out there, you know, and He's taking care of you and He loves you, you don't need anything from the world, really, right? And you can always go to that. That's like your base and your top, you know? And so if you don't believe in God, where else are you going to go? Like, if you don't have a relationship with God, yeah, you're going to start doing things that are, we know, ruinous for, you know, your mental health, your physical well-being. You just start getting into a lot of things, and you see that, you know, you see that with people who you've met or whatever.
Yeah. And I
And so it's good that, you know, we are Christian. It's good that you have that to lean on, and it's
That's
great
why
that you do.
I think we should sometimes reframe it, in the sense of, I'm not lonely, whereas I want someone to share this with, where it's like coming at it from a positive perspective instead of a negative one. Because, like, the power of words is so strong.
Super
so
strong.
The way we frame it can just change
Can
that.
mentally,
so, like,
yeah.
for me personally, I'm not trying to say I'm lonely. I'm ready to share what I have with someone now. Like, I'm in that space, and whenever it comes, I'm ready. But I'm not gonna talk to myself from that lower sense of low confidence of loneliness. Like, I'm not gonna give it that power anymore.
That's good. So I think the next topic we want to hit, and it's kind of an extension on the first point we made where we talked about societal pressures. But within societies, you have, groups of people. You have, your family, you have your friends.
Yeah.
And, that makes up, what a society is, those groups of people. And so we want to look at family pressures and peer pressures that can come with, being single or trying to get into a relationship. And I think all of us, could have like an experience or, a story to share. For me personally, like I come from a unique situation. Like, my mom, when I'm going to put my parents out here, specifically my dad more though. My mom, when she was young, she came from California, LA area, a lot of Adventists there, especially back in, the 70s, 80s when she was growing up. A lot more opportunities. People were in the church. She used to tell me like it was more popular and fun to be an Adventist. They had a lot of things, for the young people. And so she dated a lot. Like,
Okay, yeah.
She never,
Mama
did
Hughes.
anything, crazy. She was a good girl, right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? She was a good girl, but she had boyfriends. Okay, now
Nothing wrong with that.
my dad, on the other hand,
He didn't date
the
you.
only girl he ever dated was my mom.
Wow.
So like the pressure for like family
Wasn't really there.
wasn't really there because like my dad, he never dated, like, and so he would always tell me just like just wait, man.
Yeah.
Wait.
Do you feel that was the right move though?
Yeah, in a lot of ways I think it was, because I mean, like, looking back on it,
Because that's such a unique experience.
I think if anything were to be that I would like to be different is that we would, kind of talk about it, be more open to it, just going out, not even, it doesn't even have to be like a relationship thing, it could just be like, dating, just getting to be familiar with, girls or whatever. I mean, I have friends that were girls. I just never, dated any of them, so I've gone on dates though. I will say that since then I've gone on dates, but yeah, so the peer pressure from my family wasn't there. Now, like, to my peers, and I would say specifically in the military, so I was a Marine for 6 years, and
Hoorah.
we would have
No
every year,
tattoos either.
we'd have a Marine Corps ball, and so 6 years. I went to 6 balls, and only one of those years.
Pause.
No, that's cool. That's fine.
Okay, let me
funny.
repeat that. That was I literally, when I said that, my mind was like, I might have said that too fast. I went to 6 Marine Corps balls.
Uh-huh.
Oh, jeez.
6 is a lot.
It is.
So in those 6,
Marine Corps ball, and the Marine Corps ball is like a fancy. It's like a prom that the Marine Corps holds, and we
promenade.
Yeah, and so you could come single, and some of my friends did, and I'm good friends with a lot of my Marine Corps buddies even today. But most of the time they would come with a date. I only came with a date one time.
Out of the 6.
Out of the 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I tried a few other times, but it never worked out. But I only came with one. And so, in the Marine Corps, like that, the pressure to, date and to talk about the opposite gender was very big, because that was literally 90% of the conversation
That's crazy.
was about
It makes a
girls
lot of sense 'cause you're
and
with
drinking,
dudes
but girls
all the time.
Oh yeah, dudes, lots of testosterone. It's just like a big frat party, and so you just talk about females and like in a very explicit nature a lot of the times. And I
Yeah.
could not get into those conversations, and they would tease me, but it's just jokingly,
I see what you're saying.
fun. But in my head, I'm just like, wow, I kind of feel like emasculated a little bit.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, because like I was like the only guy. Not that I wasn't the only guy that was a Christian.
But the only guy
I was the only guy
who refrained
who
from.
refrained but didn't have like those experiences,
No, I see what
like
you're
that. I
saying.
didn't do anything. So that pressure to
Get a story
go
to
get
share.
a story, or even like come up with a story, just make
Yeah.
up one. I didn't do that, but that like all those things would come in my mind, and so that was tough,
No, I mean,
and
similar-
6 years, and honestly, like I would hate sometimes going to training because I knew that would be the conversation.
Oh, wow.
Even though I love like being around my guys,
hard.
it made it hard.
It's like, let's talk about something else.
I know, right,
a
man?
lovely
Let's
day.
talk about like something else.
Yeah, that's not gonna fly. I mean, similar to you, and maybe I guess the three of us have been lucky. I mean, I personally don't feel, and I don't think you, Doc, either, that we've had familial pressure to kind of marry or get together with anyone.
Even as a
that strong.
Latino.
Yeah,
Dominican?
Yeah, even as I mean, the only thing that could even be considered pressure was the fact that our older brother Chris, he got married at 23.
Yeah.
So by the time he was my age, he had already been married for 5 years. You know what I'm
it's
saying?
crazy to think about.
So earlier I was talking about how my friends are not only married but they have kids. So I'm like 5 years behind, Chris in being married, but also 3 years, like presuming that's how long I want to wait without kids. If I do want to
Yeah.
have kids, so now I'm like 8 years behind. Does that make sense? That would be probably the only thing of like familiar pressure that I would have, but I don't really get like a sense of like thing from my dad or mom or grandma or anybody like that.
It's crazy. I know people like who were my classmates in high school on their second marriages, and like I haven't even had a girlfriend yet. So
Everybody has their own
I'm just like,
Yeah.
man, I'm just really behind. But anyway,
That's
go
what
ahead.
you're
Sorry.
saying.
Yeah. I think for me, I've experienced a little bit of family pressure, maybe not as much as you, because I'm a girl. Like, for example, when I talk to my grandma on the phone, she lives in Dominican Republic, she's like, so you have a boyfriend yet? Like, you've gone on any dates? Como que, like, I know that's a topic that's going to come up every time. And then if I say no, she's going to be like, why? Like, like, what are you doing? So, like,
Wow.
That's something
Ouch.
common in the Hispanic culture because that's
especially for women.
Yeah, but-
I think.
I mean, it's a natural question to ask, but I see what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, but like every time I hear it, like it's kind of a little bit of pressure of
Yeah.
like, well, I guess what I'm not doing is enough,
yeah.
It's like a shot in the back. Ow,
Yeah, like,
Jeez, come
hi,
down,
Grandma,
bro.
I love you too.
Right.
You know?
Right? I'm like,
The
geez.
first question when they see you is like,
Yeah.
"Oh, how's the boyfriend?" Like, what? Like, I don't have any.
She
like,
want grandkids.
like-
That's why.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I want my grandkids before I die.
Yeah.
No, wait, we are her grandkids. What do you mean?
Great grandkids.
Great grandkids.
Give me some more great grandkids.
So that's like subtle pressure from like family, more specifically my grandma. I would say my mom sometimes puts a little bit of pressure, not necessarily of like, oh, you have to get married or you have to get a boyfriend, but like sometimes it's more of just like, is it true you've never had a boyfriend before? Like you've never even talked to a guy before? And it's like what? Like what? Like I mean,
more shots
obviously I
in
don't
the
tell my
back.
mom everything. It's like, yeah, sure, I've talked to guys, but I like, have I told you no? Like have I gone on a date? Maybe.
Why would you refrain from telling her that? I mean, I'm just curious.
Sometimes you don't. I would maybe because I'm not ready to, or maybe because I myself.
You don't want
I'm
them to make a
trying
big
to
deal
determine
about
what
it.
it is exactly.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Because then you do tell
like,
them,
"Ooh."
and then they
Nothing.
hype it up,
Yep.
right?
Right.
And then you get all up in your head, and then the biggest temptation we
Yeah.
have is like, oh, you go on a date, and then it's wedding bells, you know. So
Right.
then you're gonna
Yeah.
get that feedback from other people. So
And then
a lot
all of a
the
sudden,
times,
people are like, oh,
might
hey,
as
you went on
well
a date.
keep it to yourself,
Right.
Until you
because
know
you're trying
it's
to
like
keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
Of like, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
So
I like when some people ask me that, like people that I wouldn't even tell be asking me that. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you anyway. Like, why are you asking me?
Wait, ask
Yeah.
you what?
Like, ooh, where's the girl, Mike? I'm like, I ain't telling you anyway.
I don't like that
Exactly.
attitude. I
No,
don't know why.
they're not in my circle. Like,
Oh,
I'm
I
not
see
gonna
what you're
tell.
saying.
Like,
Okay, yeah.
Like, you're out there.
Sure.
Or
I'm-
like sometimes, like my
Who
brother
makes you think I'm gonna
Chris
tell you?
would be like, "So you're going to Hawaii to see your boyfriend?" Like, it's not necessarily pressure to get into a relationship, but like it just keeps reminding you, like,
Exactly.
you still single, you still single, you still single, and then it's kind of like,
Yeah, when for me in my case, when before I get married or start dating, whatever, I was in college. My two oldest brothers, they got married like 21 and then 22, and I was still in college. And my parents like, well, when are you gonna get married? Like when is like?
How
and
old
I'm
were you when you got married?
25, like
25,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So for me, it was like, okay, so when are you guys gonna marry? When are you guys gonna get married? Since when we start dating, we were like 2-3
Yeah.
years, almost 3 years, and I'm like, okay, so like when it's gonna happen?
TikTok.
Like you guys been dating for a long time.
I
Like
want grandkids,
You,
like-
I was almost 25. Like what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
So it's just like that pressure, like constantly, like you know, and you just have to wait your time. I feel like they don't understand. Like you can, like what we're talking about
Well,
earlier.
you're a
like
nurse, and there's
you're
all
like,
that.
yeah,
career.
exactly. Like the goal is not just to get married in
Yeah.
life. Like you want to accomplish other stuff. You
things.
want
Exactly.
to travel. You want to like become professionally or learn other stuff. And it is prioritize getting married. And family sometimes doesn't understand that.
Yeah, especially like and if you're coming from a family where your parents married early, and a lot of your other family members. For me, I was fortunate because my dad didn't get married till he was 30,
Okay.
wow.
and my mom was 27. So
That's good.
oh, okay, so
yeah, so